It took Michael Waltrip 463 NASCAR races before he made it to victory lane, and when he finally did win, the biggest day in his professional life was at the same time one of the most tragic days in racing history and in his life as well. He wrote about it all in his new book. It's out today. It's called In the Blink of an Eye, and Michael Waltrip is here to break his 10-year silence about that day. Well, this was the Daytona 500, February 18th. It would have, were it not for the tragic ending, it would have been probably the race that everybody was talking about, right?
It was an amazing day, so competitive, and I battled near or at the front all day long. We had on Friday a team meeting. I was on Dale Earnhardt's team, and he and I and some of the guys on the team sat down, and he said, here's how we're going to win the race. With the rules the way they are this year, you got to work together. We're going to support each other. We're going to push each other. We're going to hang together all day long, and at the end, we'll race to the front. And as I looked in my mirror with a couple laps to go, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Dale Earnhardt were right on my bumper. So it played out just like he predicted.
You had the son right behind you and the father behind him.
Yeah, and it was marching toward the perfect day in NASCAR.
And then in that last quarter mile, in the last quarter mile, the tragic accident happened, which, again, you look at that, we're seeing it on the right of the screen here, and a lot of us looked at it and said, gee, you know, it's a shame it's a bad accident, but it didn't look deadly.
Yeah, I know, but the cars were just going so fast, and it veered right into that concrete wall and had another car riding him into that wall, and it just was more than his body could take. And we've seen so much advancement in safety since that day.
Yes.
You talk about 2001, that was back in the day. That was old school with the rules compared to where they are now. And unfortunately, we lost 4 racers within a year's time up to the Daytona 500, and we've worked really hard since then and haven't had a fatality since. So the sport's come a long way, safety's come a long way, but it came at an ultimate price.
But nobody wanted to talk about that. Understandably, nobody wanted to talk about the race because it was so tragic. You love Dale Earnhardt. Most racers I know love Dale Earnhardt. Why now? Why finally break the silence about it?
Well, I say in the book, people ask me about that day, I would change the subject or I'd leave the room. But as the 10th anniversary approached, more and more people were asking and wanted to know. And I was joking with my buddy. I said, I'd have to write a book to tell about that day. And he said, why don't you? So I thought, well, that's a great idea because it gives me the chance to sort of investigate, think, and talk about that day myself. I've always had the philosophy that if something gets on your nerves, ignore it and it'll go away. That's not healthy.
Doesn't happen.
I didn't live my life healthy in that aspect. I'm not married to my wife anymore because of that. So I had some issues dealing with hurt and with tragedy. And so diving into it and trying to understand it, I think was healthy for me. But one thing I didn't accomplish, I still don't understand how it happened or why it happened that day.
Is that right? It was
so close to perfect. I'm a Christian, so I believe everything happens for a reason. But darn, I'm going to have to understand this one a lot better than I do today. It was just so perfect and so close.
One of those mysteries, and there are some mysteries we never discover the answer to. But you've raced in 25 Daytona 500s. Doesn't the memory of this come back to haunt you while you're driving some of these races?
Well, I grew up as a kid admiring those high banks of Daytona. When I was 12 years old, my mom and dad took me there for the first time, and that place inspired me to be a race car driver. And I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew I wanted to. And so racing on those banks mean the world to me. And I used the return to Daytona in July of 2001 as sort of inspiration again to get my life on track. I hadn't been focusing on my racing. I was distraught. I couldn't put everything together after the event in February. Yeah. And as we went back to Daytona in July, I said, I might not have things together on the personal side over this, but I'm going to get my racing career back together. And I went down there, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished 1-2, reverse order from the February event, and it was the most special night of my whole life. And ever since then, I've always looked forward to going back to Daytona. I said,
in 2003, you won it again, right?
Yeah. I said, I'm going to get this place back. I'm going to put this place back where it belongs. And the win in the 03 500 was something that was really special to me because, as you can appreciate, I never celebrate the one from 01, right. But the one from 03 I can certainly smile.
Was Dale Earnhardt your best friend?
He was one of my best buddies. We were friends. We fished together. We hung out together. He actually gave me the endorsement I needed to get my wife to go out with me when we first started dating. So he was a friend on many different levels, and I think a lot of people looked at the two of us and they would say, why is the dude in the weird shorts, that's me, hanging around with a guy with a funny mustache? That was Dale. We were different, we were opposites, but we certainly enjoyed each other's company, and he believed in me. He believed I could win races if I got to race his car. And so
feel
much
his spirit was sort of guiding you on?
I know it was. And I also know the last thing he knew on this earth was, there goes Mike, just like I said he would. He's going to go win this race. And that brings me a smile when I think about it. But most of the time when I think about that day or the events that led up to it makes me cry.
Boy, oh boy. Well, you certainly know how to sell the book. I tell you, I want to read it now. Michael Waltrip, the book is called In the Blink of an Eye. Congratulations on writing. I'm glad you could come to this.
Me too.